Hey everybody, welcome back to an episode of the Primal Foundations podcast. Today's guest is Mike Valenti, StrongFirst Elite Instructor and Team Leader, former Highland Games competitor, Carnivore since 2017, and owner and operator of Blind Dog Gym located in Vermilion, Ohio. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing? Great to be here.
Yeah, man, I was telling you a little off air. I was like, swing kettlebells, lift weights, eat steaks, carnivore. I'm like, you're my target audience.
Right. Yeah. It's nice to meet people like that all around and get those same brain wavelengths going.
Absolutely. I want to start the podcast off to, have some of the listeners get some of your background of, how did you kind of get into fitness, athletics, and then kind of make your way to becoming a competitor in Highland Games?
Yeah, I mean, I did everything like I'm sure most of the people listening did as a kid, all the sports growing up and started lifting weights because I wanted to look like the wrestlers, in the 80s and picked up the shot and discus in high school. Really fell in love with that. And then when I got out of high school, well, in my junior year of high school, I started competing in the amateur circuit of the Highland Games. And then when I got out of high school, I got recruited by the University of Toledo for track and field scholarship that they kind of dangled in front of me didn't turn out. They wanted me to like work for a couple of years to kind of earn my spot on the team, and I was already better than the guy they had throwing for him. So I said, well, I could do this, or I could just turn professional in the Highland Games and actually make some money throwing. So I turned pro. Switched colleges, turned pro, and ended up doing that for almost 20 years, and it was the best summer job I ever had.
What were some of the events that you were doing?
So Highland Games traditionally is, they whether it's there's two stone throws, uh, very much like the shot put, two weight throws that are similar to the discus, two hammer throws, very similar to track and field hammer throw, a weight for height, which is a 56-pound weight you throw over a bar, like a high jump bar. The sheaf toss, which is a 20-pound bag of straw with a pitchfork you throw over a high bar. And then the caber toss, which is one everyone kind of knows, which is the one that looks kind of like a telephone pole. And, they'll either take anywhere from 5 events in one day to 7, and then some days they do 2-day events where they'll do all 9 events in over 2 days. And it was great because we got to it was like getting paid to go on a road trip with your buddies every weekend. So from mid-April to Halloween, we were in a different city every weekend or every other weekend, and it was great because those festivals that people look forward to every year. And, for us, it was just another day of work, but every weekend you got to go to a new town and the people were really psyched to see you. And you competed all day, and then you got to go to the beer tent at night and, never had to buy a drink or, pay for a meal. It worked out really well.
That's the one where you throw like whatever over your head. It's got to go over the bar. I've seen
Yeah.
like some of the strong guys do that, strong man, where they're throwing kegs. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And then I saw one, I forgot what the guy's name was, but like the keg didn't make it. It fell and it hit him, and he
Yeah.
just shrugged it off. He's like, whatever.
We
Um,
used to be able to go, when I was competing, you get the strongman in every once in a while. We used to be able to smoke them pretty easily in those events. Now they're getting a lot better at them. So,
oh yeah. And you also lifted the Husafell stone, if I
yeah.
get that correctly. That was
Yeah.
in Iceland.
Iceland in 2017. I had already retired from the pro circuit and went over there. I got invited to do the Masters World Championships and went over and a buddy of mine from the circuit, Matt Vincent. He's some people don't even know he was a Highland Games athlete. So he's like I don't know what the hell he is now, some kind of spiritual guru. I always see him online, but he was doing an internet show and he was injured and asked if he couldn't do it and asked if I wanted to come do it. So I said, yeah. So we flew into Iceland and drove 4 hours up to Husafell and lifted this stone that every great strongman and Viking and everything else for the last 500 years is lifted and tried to carry. So it was
Wow.
pretty amazing.
Oh, that's cool. I visited Iceland before. It's so beautiful, but I would have if I would have known I would have made an attempt at the stone. How heavy is this thing?
It's 419 pounds.
Okay, maybe not then. That's a pretty big stone.
Yeah,
Oh,
it was. Um, and there's such a rich stone culture in that country, and we ended up lifting three of the stones, the beach stones and the Husafell stone. But there were more stones that I didn't even know about until I left the country that I would have liked to at that time taken a shot at. I'm about probably 70 pounds and 15 years too old now, but back then I wish I would have known more about them.
yeah. And so this is kind of around 2017.
Yeah.
This transition to carnivore. So how did you find out a carnivore? What was even like the inspiration to even start doing this type of diet?
Yeah, I started. So when I retired from the pro circuit, I weighed 312 pounds. So I was at 5'11. I was, heavy, to say the least. So I went keto at first, um, started just dropping weight fast. So in about a year and a half, I dropped about 100 pounds. Um, and then started to, gain weight back up, good solid weight. But uh, Dr. Sean Baker, who's the guy who pretty much brought carnivore to the public, was also a Masters Highland Games athlete, and I just kind of reached out to him, and we kind of knew each other from the circuit. We weren't like pals or anything, but we knew of each other, and I said, "Are you really doing this?" Because at the time, no one was doing this, and he was about the only one, and he said, "Yeah, I'm doing it. I feel fantastic, and I think it's a great way to go." And so I just gave it a try, and I never looked back. It's just my my body has never felt better, even at 51. I feel great, and I don't see me ever changing the way I eat.
And then you're in you're above 300.
Yeah.
Where did you you started dropping a bunch of weight. Where'd you kind of land on the carnivore diet?
Um, so I hover right around between 200, 210. Without having to try or restrict myself in any way. I've gotten as low as 180. That was last year. Um,
Wow.
but yeah, 210 is right where I level out at.
Okay. And as you're going through this, I mean, that's a big weight loss,
Yeah.
what some people when they get to carnivore and it's everybody's a little bit different. Did you have like because you were keto before, was the you know adaptation period tough for you? Was it an easy transition?
So when when I transferred from eating like an asshole, just eating horribly to keto, um, I'd always had, which I'm married to a nurse, so like she figured all this stuff out, but I had always had blood sugar issues. I would get, like real weak and almost delusional sometimes, and sweat, and like it was bad, and didn't really know what was going on. But we decided to try this and cut out all the sugar and carbs and see what would happen. And um, so automatic, I never went through like keto flu or anything like that. I think my body was just really wanted to eat that way. So I never had any of those issues. Um, and then when I went from keto to carnivore, it was even better. It was, I didn't have to. I found like adding fat to everything was pretty tiresome, and you were constantly trying to get more fat in your diet, and this just seemed um, more logical to me. This is the way we would have eaten, you know, 300,000 years ago. We would have been following, game animals across the tundra. We would have, eaten primarily meat. And then, in season when we didn't have meat, we probably would have looked for some kind of plant life to eat. But it just felt right and it made sense to me. And, I just think that's kind of the way we were meant to eat.
Yeah, I was I went to a crazy transition. I was vegan for 2 years. And then I was like, all right, my body started not really working for me anymore. So I then went to keto. But one of the reasons I went to carnivore is just because it was simpler. Like the keto is just like, what's my macros?
Yeah.
Is this fiber minus the plus the net
Yeah.
carb? I'm just like, what am I doing?
Exactly. It was such a pain in the butt. And then I went carnivore, and Dr. Baker is just so good about it. He's like, hey, I just eat steak. This is not hard. You're making,
Yeah.
you're trying to make carnivore cookies and bread. It's like, just eat a steak. You'll be fine. It
Oh
works.
yeah. Now one, and this is like, I'm so excited to talk to you about this because this is one piece I get people predominantly that are athletic or athletes are like, I'm not going to do carnivore or even keto because I really don't want my athletic performance to hinder. Did you feel like it kind of did hinder a little bit at first, or was it beneficial?
So, like I said, I think for me personally, I think this is the way I was meant to eat. I think it's the way my body reacts the best. I did the World Highland or the World Masters Highland Games Championship, uh, completely fasted. So I was on a 24-hour fast uh, and carnivore. Actually, I was probably keto back then at that time, so I was probably somewhere in the transition. I can't remember, but either way,
Uh, Ketovore, yeah.
yeah, but I didn't eat until evening of that day, so we were competing all day. Same thing when I qualified for strongman nationals, completely fasted, and I was carnivore for sure for that. Um, and I never had any issues. And I really think it's just because my body was so used to burning fat, so it wasn't like I needed that food to digest. It was just pulling the fat off my body as I competed, and I never got tired. I was never low energy. Um, I've never had any of those issues. Now, obviously everybody's different, but yeah, I never had any problems with low energy or poor athletic performance because of it. And I really think for me, even with the fasting, I didn't have to worry about digesting food while I'm trying to compete, or my body was just more efficient that way, I think.
And for building muscle as you're training, did you feel like you were able to build muscle or at least
Yeah,
maintain?
yeah. I never my I'm still able to do now even whatever I want to do. I did my I deadlifted 3 times body weight last year, and I was able to build up to that for the first time ever. Um, and my weights now seem to be really, really good. I don't have any problems with strength levels or building muscle. And um, yeah, I think a lot of it is people just overthinking this. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a dietitian, but it just seems that people just overthink this whole thing. You need protein to build muscle. You need fat for energy. I mean, if you like carbs, great, go for it. But these battles over whether or not this can work or not, I'm always like, it works for me.
Yeah.
I'm not
Hey,
shooting.
we're definitely gonna get back to this because you just mowed over. Oh yeah, I just deadlifted 3 times my body weight. So we're gonna get back to that. But yeah, like you're like it's super simple. It's I'm gonna eat till I'm satiated. I'm
Yeah,
going to be able to perform well. I think the big piece is like I don't want to put my tinfoil hat on, but it's like, well, what about all the energy bar companies?
right.
All of the power gels or whatever it may be, and the protein shakes, and you got to have all this stuff to be an elite athlete. And you're just eating red meat and steaks and feeling
Yeah.
good.
And if you look at all that stuff, most of it, you have to really search hard to find a protein shake or a protein bar or something like that that isn't just filled with garbage. I get that question from my clients all the time is, what kind of protein should we take? Take a steak. You know, I at the risk of offending your audience, I competed in two of the sports that had some of the strongest guys on the planet. They didn't sit around talking about what protein drink they were having. I mean,
Yeah.
if anything, they were on testosterone. They weren't taking protein and energy drinks. It just, so if these are the strongest guys on the planet, they're not taking this stuff. Why would I prescribe that to a housewife who just needs more protein in her diet? Make up some hard boiled eggs and put them in your refrigerator and eat those. You don't need all this crap.
When you were starting out, what was your kind of typical meals? I don't know if you were OMAD or kind of played around with that one meal a day, and is it different now later on as you've been doing carnivore?
Yeah, so I found out real early. I had a buddy, Dr. Don Bassesi, who, when we were talking about when I was starting to lose weight, and I was I was switching between from keto over to carnivore, and he had made a comment to me that no adult human needs to eat 3 times a day, and he was kind of one of these hardcore Chicago weightlifter guys, and so I went down and started eating just lunch and dinner, and then heard Pavel on Rogan's podcast talking about doing the warrior diet, which is 1 meal a day. And I said, well, I'll just try that. And it's been the best thing I've ever done. I mean, it's just, for me now, I can put away food and when I was on the circuit and I was big, there wasn't a buffet that I didn't love. I mean, I would just, if you let me eat as much as I wanted, I would do that 3 times a day. But and for my mental, makeup, if you can give me 1 meal a day where I can eat as much as I want and not have to worry about anything, it just works perfectly for me. So I will eat a huge meal, but just once a day, and I don't get hungry. I don't have cravings. It just works really well for me. And again, Pavel coming through with some good knowledge.
Yeah, I think he even mentioned he's like, I don't eat vegetables.
No, yeah,
Yeah, and it's a good point too, and that's what some people don't realize this is, you know, with eating for satiety, right? A lot of people are very different in this. It's like, well, eat till you're full. Well, if you let me eat twice a day, I'm gonna overeat and
yeah,
overconsume. And like my triggers for me, it could be hormonal, it could be a mental thing or emotional thing. My satiety doesn't ping as much, right? I'm more of a volume eater. Like I've realized that because I eat carnivore. I've been carnivore for 5 years or so now. And even though I'm carnivore, my weight will go up and down a little bit depending
yeah,
on the volume that I eat. So
sure.
yeah, OMAD is definitely it's a tool. Some people like just really don't like it. But if you can go to OMAD or at least identify like, oh, like I really need to kind of take a look at what's on my plate and how much of it, because I'm the same way as you.
Yeah,
I could put 2 pounds of beef down, three, right? It
yeah,
doesn't really matter to me. Like I might be full, but I could still keep going.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. I would do that every meal if you let me, So
Oh
it
yeah.
and then from that I got into fasting. So I do a couple 48 hours a year, just kind of whenever I feel like doing it. And then I do a big 72 to 96, depending on how I feel, every year after Thanksgiving. So I think the fasting is great too for your body. And I always feel great at it. And I've done some really cool things athletically during long fasts. And, um, you know, I wish I was smart enough to understand all the stuff that goes on in your body when you're doing this stuff. But they've been doing this for hundreds and thousands of years. These fasts, and I there's something to them. I'm a firm believer.
No, absolutely. And you know, your family too, like you have wife, kid, right, as
Yep.
well?
Yep.
So are they joining you with this, or is this like dad's just the weird guy eating beef every day?
So my wife is a former. She was a CrossFit regional competitor. When we met, smoking hot, Jack, the whole 9 yards. She is she's really increased her protein levels, but she still eats her fair share of vegetables and more like a normal human would eat. My son is a hammer thrower at Ashland University, and he's kind of where I was, 20, 25 years ago, where he never met a calorie he didn't like. So, um, but you know, when I cook beef. That's what I cook, and so when he was home in high school and stuff, it was, you were having steaks tonight. Are you in? And it was usually that's how he would eat too. So.
I'd be pretty happy.
Yeah, we used to go through two cows a year when he was home, and
Oh,
now,
wow. Two?
yeah, two cows a year.
Oh man, you guys have a big ice chest thing?
A couple of them, yeah, yeah,
Oh my God. I mean, where you're at, my assumption is you're going to have a little bit more access to
yeah,
um, different farmers, ranches, things like that. Do you kind of buy locally?
yeah. So I'm on schedule. Matter of fact, the end of next month, I get my next half. So twice a year, I get a half a steer, or twice a year, I get a half a steer, and then the other huge staple in my diet is eggs. So I've got a client who has 60 chickens, and she doesn't eat eggs. So every week she brings me in like 3 dozen eggs. And then if she's out, my neighbors next door have probably 13 to 15 chickens. So, I can just give them a call. So we go to the grocery store. Most of it is food for our animals and food for my wife, and there's nothing in the cart for me. So I just eat everything locally, and I know what those animals are eating, and I know the people who are raising them, and it's really just an ideal situation.
Oh man, that sounds really good. Yeah, well, over here in Chicago, there's not.
Yeah,
It's just there's just cities, here or there, and just getting like real good quality beef is kind of tough. I'm not in the camp of like it has to be, um, you know, grain finished, like grass
yeah.
fed, the whole shebang. I don't think the profile of the steak is that big of a difference, but I think if you're able to, and especially local, and you know the people or you have a relationship, that's like where your food comes from. That's amazing.
Yeah, I'm in your camp. I don't think you make perfect the enemy of good. Where you're talking about it has to be grass fed, grass finished, and all this stuff. It's like, I know the farmer where I get my cow from. I know how he treats his animals. I know how he feeds them. And I do. But I talk to him about that stuff more because I'm interested than anything. But yeah, I'm definitely in your camp. One of the coolest things, my neighbor is a deer hunter, and I wish that I had grown up deer hunting. I didn't have a father. My father was an old Italian guy. He was not into hunting, so I wish that someone would have showed me how to do that when I was younger. But I was walking around our property couple weeks ago. I do like a 30-40 minute walk every day with the weight vest. So I'm walking around the property, and he comes pulling up on his four-wheeler with a giant 8-point buck on the back of his four-wheeler, and he takes it into his shed and hauls it up and gets ready to start dressing it out. And I come walking over, and I'm like, "Wow, Charles, that's awesome! Congrats!" He's like, "Hey, you like venison, right?" I was like, "Yeah." And this dude just cut me out a loin right out there and put it in a plastic bag and handed it to me. It was still warm. I was like, man, took that thing home and cooked it up. It was great. But yeah, I mean, if you can get food like that and you've got some kind of connection to it, I think it's so much better for you.
That's awesome. And eating carnivore, and you're describing all the things, and this is a common thing of everybody's feeling really good, they're losing weight, they have a lot of energy, they don't have to eat as much. The hunger piece, I think, is a big thing to tackle with people, because when they hear diet, they're
Yes.
like, I have to be hungry or starving. That's the point of a diet if I'm trying to quote unquote lose weight. How do you feel tackling hunger um, on carnivore, and then also your relationship with food?
Yeah. So my gym right now, we do challenges every once in a while. And I've probably got I put out for World Carnivore Month. Let's do carnivore. And we probably got like 7 or 8 people doing it at the gym right now, which isn't a lot, but 7 or 8 people who are willing to make this commitment for 30 days. And I told them, I said, have food available. Like, hard-boiled eggs and beef jerky. And if you have to do like roast beef lunch meat, it's not ideal, but have it there. And I don't care. Eat as much as you want. When you're hungry, eat, but have the right food sitting there so you don't go to the popcorn or the snacks or whatever you're going to go to. And they're doing really well on it. I've just gotten through the years where I just don't do a lot of snacking. Um, I don't. I don't get hungry. You know, we just did a whole workshop in Akron this weekend, and it was 8 hours of training people, and then an hour there and an hour back driving. I mean, I never got hungry. I never had any issues, and I went home and ate. But if you told me I had to go until the next day, it would have been fine. So it just my relationship with food used to be, it's always been weird. It was always, when I was younger and competing, I was always trying to put weight on and pack weight on because I was 5'11", and I figured if I'm only 5'11", I got to be really heavy. And it was dumb, but that's the way I looked at it. So I had this unnatural relationship with food where I was always trying to pack myself to the point where I was sick. And then now, I think I've finally gotten to the point where, I eat when I'm hungry, and I eat until I'm not hungry. And lo and behold, I feel a lot better. When you're not
Mm-hmm.
making food into some kind of reward or punishment, or whatever you're putting your brain into it. You just use it for what it is. It's energy. And that's not to say you can't go out. And my wife and I will go out and have date night tomorrow night, and we'll have a wonderful meal. And I'll have a cocktail with my meal, and once a week. And it can be used to have some enjoyment and as a social thing. But yeah, I think people just, they either overthink it, or they have some weird kind of relationship with it where it's screwing with their head. And it the more simple you can make it, the better. I have a lot of conversations with my clients uh, around food, and it's funny, the ones who actually listen do really well, and the ones who don't. And it's not rocket science. And I tell them just that. I said, hey, if you want this to work, just do what I tell you for the next 30 days. Then you'll be on your own. You'll be fine.
The simplicity piece I've found was the time that I spend, quote unquote, like I don't really meal prep. I don't meal prep. I worked from 6:45 this morning till 5:30, 5:45. Came home, fried up some ground beef,
Yeah.
like 2 pounds. Boom, it was already had it in the fridge, and then boom, got ready for the podcast, all that stuff. Like I'm good. If I don't have it in the fridge, it's in the freezer,
Yeah.
and it's very simple. Like you said, like just have food ready, available, nutrient dense, bioavailable. Great. The packages, like when I had a friend stay over with me from Ohio, he's from Ohio, and he's an Ohio. Are you an Ohio State fan by chance?
Not much of a sports fan, but my
Oh, okay.
family is. My son and my brother is. Yeah.
I lost a bet. I'm a Michigan fan because growing up in Chicago, there's like no, everybody's a transplant around here, and there's like
Yeah.
no like football team. Northwestern is good sometimes. U of
Yeah.
I was actually somewhat decent this year, but I bet him. I'm like, oh, Ohio State's going down. Notre Dame's gonna crush them. He's like, all right, what do you want to bet? I was like, all right, how about if you win, if Ohio State wins, I'll wear an Ohio State t-shirt to work all day. Cause I always talk crap to all the students, the faculty at Ohio State. And I'm like, if Notre Dame wins, you have to win a Michigan shirt to work in Ohio. He's like, deal. And now I'm waiting for my t-shirt to come from Amazon. But this is a side note. But he came over and he to visit, and he stayed with me. And I come back doing something. He goes, yo, man, you ain't got no snacks in this house? And I was like, no, I don't have any snacks in the house. He goes, you got beef, eggs, and I opened the freezer, more beef. He goes, you have salt and hot sauce. And I was
Yeah.
like, that's it. That's all in the cupboard is salt, hot sauce, and utensils.
Yeah. And then everyone talks about how expensive carnivore is. Well, it's not
No.
expensive because you don't buy any other crap. You just buy the basics, and it's not expensive at all.
And there's also this waste component I talk to a lot of people about. Like, I don't waste anything.
Right.
There's not one thing. The only thing that really goes in my garbage is the shells from the eggs and the packaging that the meat comes in.
Yeah.
I never throw, because when I was vegan, I would buy the big spring salads like this deep,
Yeah.
not get to them all, and then it'd be like sludge at the bottom, and then throw it away. You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. 100%. That's, and there's something about, again, I was never a hunter, but there's something about the fact that, this animal gave his life for you to eat it. And,
Hmm.
um, it's very difficult for me to throw meat out. Even, at the worst case scenario, my dogs will get some of it, but it just, there's something about wasting that it's different than throwing out a salad. You don't want to do that.
Yeah, and your family takes down one steer a year.
Yeah, right. Yeah, like, I mean, that's leaving a low footprint, I guess you would say, in this day and age.
Exactly. And you talked about like having a cocktail every once in a
Mhm.
while. And again, there's like this everything nowadays is very dogmatic. It's either you're all carnivore or you're not. Like you have that because you're carnivore that you shouldn't be
Right.
having those things. Do you indulge in other things outside of carnivore and if you do, like how does your body react to it?
I have we go, like I said, we go date night every week, and I'll have two, maybe three cocktails. Um, I know that if I have more than that, I will feel horrible the next day. Um, so I always keep it under that. I'm a rum guy, so I like my rum. Um, uh, it doesn't seem to affect me. I come from a family of hard drinking German people, and I can remember my grandmother getting cases of beer delivered to her house well into her 80s, and
Wow.
uh, I think everything in moderation, and I don't think we're fragile enough that if you have a drink here and there, it's gonna wreck your body. I think we're a little bit more stout than that as a race of humans, and uh, you know now, that being said, if you're going to make a jump and make a switch, like I have my people doing this World War challenge, and that was part of the stipulation was you couldn't drink for 30 days. And I think that's a good thing. I had a couple people come to me and say, "Oh, I couldn't do that." Well, if you can't do that, you have a problem. You have an issue with alcohol that you need to address, and it's more important than your issue with food. If you can't go 30 days without having a drink, it's all these crutches you got to get rid of. You can't be dependent on any of these things, whether it's food or booze or drugs or whatever it is. Address those things and learn how to overcome them. Because if you depend on something that much, then it's probably an issue that you're not dealing with.
And a little bit of alcohol. Like I'm in that camp of like if having red wine every once in a while. I'm Italian, right? I love my red wine. Like having that every once in a while is going to like take 5 years off my life. I'm like fine. Like that's totally like I need to. I
Right.
want to enjoy. I
Yeah.
wanna. I wanna be able to be social. And last year I did. I did World Carnivore Month last year again, every month is basically World
Sure.
Carnivore Month for me. But I decided like not to have any alcohol. I'm like, I'm gonna do the whole dry January thing,
Mhm.
and I started feeling so good that I actually pushed it. So I did the sec February, and I went 60 days,
Yeah.
and not much of like a body comp difference, but I would say the one thing that I would say is the sleep. Like with no
Yeah.
alcohol, I was sleeping like a log.
Yeah, yeah, and that's what I notice when I have too many cocktails. I have the whoop strap on my arm, and that is such a crazy indicator of where you're at because I'll have if I let's say I had four drinks or something, my sleep will be way off. My recovery is way off, and you can just see the data right on your phone of what it did to you. And I mean, the evidence is right there. I may not feel horrible, but I'm certainly not going to hit a workout today because, I'm in the red and I know that my sleep was subpar. And it's just amazing to watch what too much alcohol can do to you. But yeah, like I'm with you. There's a reason why we're here on the planet, and it doesn't hurt to be social once in a while and have a drink with your pals.
Nothing wrong with that.
No.
Eh, And you are the owner and operator and the lead trainer at Blind Dog Gym. Can you tell us a little bit about the history of the gym and why the heck is it called Blind Dog Gym?
So yeah, so I started out in '96 training athletes, and so I kind of had this side business. I was a corrections officer, and I was training athletes on the side. I did that for years and years and years, and I had a gym out of my garage at my house. So I had this detached 20 by 20 garage with a leaky roof and no heat, no air conditioning, nothing. And we put so many college athletes out of that shitty little shack of a gym. It was just super hardcore, and the kids really got a kick out of it. Well, we used to have I've always had Australian cattle dogs, blue heelers, and at the time I had one named Cordelia, and she was blind as a bat. She would follow me out there every day and sit in the garage and just stare at a wall or stare at a bench. She didn't know what she was staring at. But when my wife and I got together, and she kind of talked me into, hey, let's have a real gym and see what we can do. And we were looking for names. And I kind of made the joke we should just name it Blind Dog for Cordy. And she loved the name, and it stuck. And it's gone through many different iterations over the years, but it's always been Blind Dog, and it's kind of made a name for itself around here, and it's been great.
That's so cool. Just owning your own like brick and mortar type deal and getting to kind of tailor it up to what you think, right? There's those big the big box gyms. It's just
Yeah,
like super cluttered and it's just a ton of things and like I always joke around like I wish I put money into Planet Fitness
yeah,
like 10 years ago because it's $10 a month and if the member shows up, it doesn't even nobody cares. They're just
yeah,
going to keep paying and but to have like your own place and structured how you want and also have like that relationship with the clients
yes,
it
yes,
is really important. And then when people come to you with the average, we're just talking just average, I want to lose 15, 20 pounds, like somebody that can move well, because there's a spectrum there, the
sure,
elite athlete versus, and somebody who's 300 pounds overweight, but like in the average,
yeah,
I want to lose weight. How do you start them out? What are the kind of conversations you have with them?
yeah. So I always uh, kind of make it like you're trying to call over a squirrel, with a peanut. You don't want to make any big hand motions, so we try to be real slow with them. So we start them off on just basic 20-minute workouts, and then after a few weeks of that, we're adding in a little bit of a flexibility piece and a mobility piece, and we try to keep it short, sweet, to the point. We have a lot of clients nowadays. It used to be pre-COVID. All I got was I need to lose 12 pounds for a wedding,
Yeah.
and they would come in, and to me, that's about as boring as you can possibly get to work with a client. It's like Jesus, that's. But now, ever since COVID, it's I want to be healthy. I want to be strong, which fits right in with StrongFirst, right? So, um, we have these 40-year-old people and 50-year-old people and up who want to get good at Turkish get-ups and they want to deadlift, and um, it's just a great opportunity to actually um, encourage a strength culture with normal people. They're not going to deadlift 600 pounds, but if I've got a 70-year-old woman, Sherry, who, she's pulling 150 under, it's great. She loves it and she's strong and healthy. And, we have we're this small little tourist town called Vermilion. And there's a business in town called Chez Francois. and it's the only five-star restaurant in the state of Ohio. So it's this beautiful restaurant on the river, and people come from all over to go to this restaurant. And it's one of these places where, we eat at it once a year because, you're going to drop $500, $600 for a couple. But I look at them more than I look at any other gym as far as like a business model. Because, what do? They do everything perfect. They give their customers a great experience. Everything is detail oriented, and they're making it as perfect as possible. And I look at that as a model of how to run a business more than gyms. And we just try to make it a good experience for everybody when they come in, and it's fun, and it's never going to be we have people who want to train a certain way and they don't want to train the different way. Who cares? If you're kind of a CrossFit type person, I'm going to give you a functional fitness CrossFit style workout because you're going to get in shape from that, So what I've realized since training people since 96 is that for the normal client off the street, everything works. And the thing that's going to work for best for them is what's going to get them off the couch and in the gym as many days of the week as possible. And that's just kind of how we look at things. And it's really, I get up every morning at 3:30 in the morning, ready to go to work, and I'm psyched to go. There's never a day where I'm like, oh shit, I got to do this again. So it's working well, I think.
I mean, how many people are jazzed up at 3:30? Like, let's get after it today.
Yep. I get up, I do my little StrongFirst mobility piece, drink my coffee and read a book, and then we go to work. It's time to go.
I work, so I have like a slew of different clientele, like, cause I'm a physical education teacher, I'm a performance coach at my school. I feel I'm actually super blessed, and I tell the kids all the time, like, I'm like, what I'm teaching you guys now, because we have this conversation all the time, and I'm sure you get this too. It's one of the hardest conversations to have of aesthetics versus like building skills.
Yeah.
And for those kids, because of Instagram, because whatever, they see bum, just like, just doing shoulder presses until the shoulders are gonna pop out, right?
Yeah.
Like, I was like, hey, that's an advanced thing. That's something that's a bodybuild. That's a sport. I'm like, you need to be worried about like getting strong, being resilient, and like really focusing on the skill. Who cares about the weight? The weight number doesn't matter. It's like, how do you move with the weight? And
Yeah.
like some kids are like, okay, this guy's talking like, out in like to getting too woo woo on me. But I'm like, no, like, and I have kids that really are dialing in and getting them at the young age to like understand like your performance like is the most important thing of like how technical you can be, how well you execute the lift regardless of the weight,
Yeah.
right? And the aesthetics could be a byproduct of that, but everybody chases like, I want to be Brad Pitt, Fight Club all the time.
Right. Yeah, that's changed since I was younger too. When I was a kid, I wanted to look like the Road Warriors. I didn't want to look like who's this guy with little tiny abs and pec muscles. No one. Now that's all the kids wanted to look like. I'm old. I don't understand the kids anymore, so that's why I don't train them very often. But yeah, for what you're doing, yeah, if you can, if you can get them young like that and teach them the benefit of a get up and a kettlebell swing, that's you're gonna have kids that'll take on the world.
Yeah, and it's the fun thing too, because we don't have a ton of machines in our fitness center. It's like I brought all my kettlebells to our gym, so my kettlebells are there. The kids use them. They're getting really good at barbell lifts. It's all functional stuff. It's not machines, and there's nothing wrong with machines, right? If that's something that you want to do, but because it's hard and it takes time, they're invested in it.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. And see, it's such a achievement when they do something cool like that. A big deadlift they thought they were never going to be able to do, and it's like the belt system in karate. You're just, especially at that age, you're just constantly giving them a goal to hit, and they immediately hit that goal, and then you give them another goal, and it's like the only time in their lives where that's going to happen. just constantly getting better no matter what you do with them.
Oh yeah, it's great, and I know you've mentioned this like a few times, like strong first, and kind of there's a lot of science backing behind this. It's a really, to me, a gold standard certification. The running joke is, dude, do you only have strong first trainers on your podcast? And I'm like, no, but I like them so much. But so what is strong first? And then also, can you explain what does it take to be an elite instructor?
Yeah, so StrongFirst, the school of strength. When I finished competing, I was kind of just all over the place. Didn't know what I wanted to do. I got into jujitsu. I got into all this. I mean, that's the old man thing, right? You get into jujitsu and you start, talking about, I couldn't find what I wanted to do. Ended up meeting. I did a podcast with Pavel Masic, and
Mhm.
he impressed me so much that and he just kind of made the off the cuff comment, you should look at taking your SFG. And so I looked up what SFG was and I took it. I went down, I took my SFG in Orlando, Florida, Strong First Era level 1. I took it with Dr. Mike Hartle. um, it was brutal and it was really hard, and at the end of the weekend I told him, got in the car, I passed, and I got in the car with my wife and I said, I'll never do that shit again. And I immediately went home and signed up for SFG2 and barbell, and that just got me going. So um, I ended up taking my barbell strong first lifter cert with Dr. Hartle, and then I took my SFG2 with Annalisa and Jeremy Layport, and I took my SFB right after my 50th birthday with John Ingham. Uh, and to get my elite, and to be elite you have to take all 4 certifications um, and pass them. The strong first is the only certification process that I know of where you actually have to be in shape in order to pass the certifications. And you can tell uh, that that's the case because you don't find overweight strong first instructors. You don't find unhealthy strong first instructors. One of the coolest things was the week after I made elite, I got to fly out to Phoenix, Arizona, and I went and saw Pavel Totsulin and Fabio Zonin do programming demystified in Arizona. And I think I was one of the only people in the seminar who wasn't a team leader or a master instructor or a senior instructor at the time, and I got to meet some of the most amazing humans on the planet, and I was just so uh, uh, in love with Strong First and everything they had to say, and I just it was like getting a new lease on life. Here I was surrounded by these like-minded individuals who um, were much smarter than I was and had at least as much experience as I did, and I was learning and getting to just kind of rub shoulders with like-minded individuals, and it just I decided then and there, this is the way I'm going to give back to the next generation, where I'm going to go and do these certifications and help out and give whatever knowledge I can to the next generation. And it's a very a rewarding thing that I get to do, and it's just been a fantastic journey so far. And it's only been you know less than 2 years.
It's a it's hard to describe. I don't think I can describe it to people because when you see quote like personal trainers or whatever coaches, there's a lot of the time it could be an ace and NASM, and there's nothing wrong with those things, but strong first, you got to go in, perform the movements to the standard. And if it's not, like, hey, like you got work to do.
Yep.
Like you just don't pass when just by showing up, or a lot of you get like the certification for going to the seminar or going to whatever. But SFG1, it's like that grad workout is no joke. That is no joke.
No joke. Yeah. And hey, you great, you're elite. guess what? In 3 years, you got to do it all over again. You got
Yeah.
to test out all over again and they don't care that you're now 72 years old. If you want to keep that elite, you better be able to do your one arm push up. And I love it.
Yeah, and it's you have all the technical skills, you have to execute them. The barbell, one of the things that I didn't know when I took my SFL, I took it with Fabio, fantastic person. Uh, I thought it was gonna be like SFG1 where you train, you train a little bit, get some feedback, and then you do your testing at the end. And it's like, all right, weigh in, okay, warm up, get your stuff. We're doing deadlifts right away. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like I'm like,
Yeah.
what? And it's funny story because I only took SFL because I almost was like a pure kettlebell person at this point. I'm like, I'm doing kettlebells. That's what I love to do. I haven't touched a barbell in years. And I wanted an SFL for my clients because like
Sure.
I want to make sure like I'm coaching them right. And I'm like, just let me go for SFL. And I actually didn't even know if I was going to hit the deadlift. I thought we were going to be coached up and then I can like hit it. And
Right.
for SFL, it's twice your body weight. And I
Right.
stepped up. I was like, whew, I think I was like 180 maybe, not even. And I think I had to pull 360. I stood it up. They're like, good. I'm like, thank God.
Yeah. Yeah. I am such a fan. I'm a fan of all the certs, but I'm a fan of the SFLs, and I've gotten the opportunity. I've mentioned Doc Hartle. I've worked a bunch of SFLs with Doc Hartle, and I worked the Dome SFL with Fabio last year, and I'm working with him again this year. And I tell you what, both those guys are fantastic. I mean, they're so knowledgeable. I learn something every single time I take the or help teach the SFL. I learn something myself, which is great. And I think it should be mandatory that any kid who is getting under a barbell, these young kids going through high school weight rooms, they should have to take, I know this sounds crazy, but they should have to take a StrongFirst workshop or take the SFL before they're allowed to get under a bar. Because if I would have learned that stuff when I was that age, I would probably be in a better healthy position as far as joints and things like that at this age. And all these, the hardest person I work with in the gym is the 45-year-old guy who played high school football because he's all screwed up from all the lifting he did back then. And it should be a mandatory requirement that you take the SFL or take a StrongFirst lift or barbell workshop. Yeah, it's just and then Doc Hartle created the cert. Fabio is a genius. I tell you what, if I've told people this before, if you can't get along with Fabio Zonin, there's something wrong with you. There's there I just love him to death. Like literally one of my favorite people in the world, and it's just been such a great ride for me getting to do this, and just like waking up at 3:30 in the morning. I know that I've got a cert in a few weeks. I just get giddy. This is going to be fun. I'm going to have a good time, and yeah, I'm just loving it.
Yeah, great community, great coaches, like really they know their stuff
Yes.
and it's also you mentioned like learning from them, which 100% like the joke was I looked at the guy that was partnered up with like for SFL when Fabio was talking about like the first 15 minutes of like him talking about SFL and barbell. I turned to the guy next to me. I'm like, I apparently know nothing about a barbell. I go, I don't know anything. I'm like, this guy is just like rattling off these things like, holy shit. Like
Yeah.
it was eye opening for me. But also like we learn from each other because we're all like professionals in the room
Yeah.
too. Like it's like, wow, somebody does something or they have a tip for you or whatever, and we're coaching each other. I'm like, holy shit, I really like how you did that. And there's no ego. It's like we're all here to learn and get better.
I mentioned it to Fabio last year because it struck me. I had spent. I'm from about 2 hours north of Columbus, so I spent a lot of time going down to West Side Barbell.
Oh,
Louis Simmons
cool.
us because we were throwers, and he always wanted to prove his system would work with people other than powerlifters. So we got invited down there a lot. We would go down and hang out. We had a crazy dinner in Nashville with him one time, which is a whole different story. But uh, he made the comment before I knew what StrongFirst was, and Pavel's put it in a couple of his books, that StrongFirst um, reverse engineers what elite athletes do naturally. And I was at the SFL last year at the Dome, and Fabio was talking about bracing and belly breathing in lifting and how to get tight that way. And I had to stop the whole cert and say, hey, look, I asked Fabio for permission to talk, and I said, hey, if you don't learn anything else this weekend, this is something that we always did as lifters. And Louis at Westside preached this, but he never was able to explain it the way Fabio just explained it. So he took something that, as heavy lifters, we all were doing, but we sure as hell didn't know really how we were doing it or how we would tell other people how to do it. It was just something you did. And Fabio did such a great job of explaining it. I wanted to stop the whole cert and say, hey guys, if he needs to repeat that, I'm sure he will, but that's gold. You just gotta walk away with nothing else. Walk away with that, because it's going to keep you safe and it's going to make your lifts go through the roof. And you just see that so much in StrongFirst with all these people. I've mentioned a bunch of them, but John Engum being able to do all the stuff he does with the flexibility and being as strong as he is. And then I just spent the weekend with Annalisa Naldi in Akron, and she is her brain works faster than anyone I've ever met in my life. She's just this ball of energy and knowledge that I'm just like, Jesus Christ, I hope I can hang with these people, and I went to that programming Demystified, and I met Sven Riegert from Germany, and he comes over across the room. We'd only talked online. He comes over and gives me a big hug, and it's like, it's just everyone. Anzelika was there from Poland, and it's just everyone you see with that black shirt and that little StrongFirst logo is a heavy hitter. There's no slouches in the group. There's never been someone I've met at one of these things and went, oh, it's this fucking guy. They're all just super friendly and super knowledgeable. And I just wish everybody had the opportunity to be coached by a StrongFirst instructor and go through these certifications, because they are the gold standard. It's just, it blows my mind.
Yeah. It's high level stuff. The programming is amazing. I've used a ton of program. I open up my SFG1 manual, SFG2 manual all the time, and it's there's so much in there. It's I can't those guys know all that stuff at the top of their head. I'm still trying to remember I go, what was this? What was that? It's tough.
Yeah. I took the Build Strong online seminar a couple weeks ago with Fabio, and it was 8 hours on Saturday and another 5 on Sunday, and it was like drinking from a fire hose. I mean, there was just so much information there. It was unbelievable, and I pulled little bits out of it, but I could probably take that seminar 3 or 4 times and learn something new every single time.
100%. And one of the last things I want to talk about of StrongFirst is they have a quote, and I want to know what you think this, if you can explain kind of what this means to you. Strength has a greater purpose.
Yeah, right. In this day and age, there's so much behind that quote. So strength in general, not just your bench press, but strength of character, strength of your body, and you're looking at endurance and mental fortitude. And it's just, there's an all-encompassing attitude within StrongFirst that, stronger is always better. And I think that's mentally stronger, that's physically stronger, that's emotionally stronger. It's the George Hackenschmidt quote, you can't divorce strength from health. You can do everything, but like they say, you have to be strong first. And it's an important aspect that is not always appreciated in strength and conditioning programs. Everybody wants to do the fancy stuff, like you said. They want to bodybuild, or they want to take their athletes and run them through, speed ladders. When, you know, give me a kid in a 25-pound kettlebell, and I'll get more out of them in a few months doing get-ups and swings and presses than just about any kind of gimmick you could get. So, whether you are someone who teaches people how to get strong, or you are a tactical athlete, a tier one performer, or, strength is always important. And it's going to serve you, to be stronger. So it's an important aspect of our community that not everyone sees. And it's weird that they don't see it, as personal trainers, as athletic trainers, as physical therapists. Stronger is always better.
Very well said. And I know you mowed over earlier. I told you we're going to get back to this. What the heck made you want to do a deadlift 3 times your body weight?
Yeah.
Speaking of strong.
So when I was younger, when I was an athlete, I deadlifted 730 pounds, you know, um, which was good for me, but I weighed 312 at the time. Um, and I started, and I wish I could remember the gentleman's name. Fabio has a friend who he talked about at Programming Demystified, and he was a guy who I think was like 3.5 times body weight deadlift. Um, and I'd never done that. I'd never, even at my strongest, never pulled 3 times body weight. So I kind of made the goal that sometime in my 50th year, I wanted to do a bed press with the 56 kilo kettlebell, and I wanted to deadlift 3 times my body weight. And I got the bed press pretty quickly and moved on to the deadlift, and it kind of transformed a little bit as I was going, because I was doing a very conjugate program. So I was hitting a max effort lift once a week in the deadlift, but um, I was switching the exercises every time. So one week I would do sumo, the next week I would do conventional, the next week I would do, a sumo deadlift off an elevation. Then maybe next week I would do a conventional deadlift from a deficit. So I was just constantly rotating the exercises. Well, then the goal became I would do 3 times body weight with both stances on the same day. So the goal was now I was going to pull 3 times body weight sumo, 3 times body weight conventional at the same time. So I started working towards that goal. And I didn't have like a date in mind. I just figured I would just keep training. And then when I was close, I would just make my run. Um, and that's why I ended up getting down to 180 pounds too, because I was gonna, like, all right, take every advantage I can get. So um, when I saw that I was getting within, range of that pull, uh, I started dieting down a little bit and cutting some calories, and I did it just very easily. I would just eat half a steak instead of a full steak at night. Just pulled out the calories a little at a time. Um, uh, got down to 180 pounds, and I said, "This is the day I'm going to do it." So I felt great, and was able to do it with both stances. I pulled it sumo first and ripped a big giant callus off my hands doing it.
Oh,
So I just taped up my hand and said, screw this, I gotta do it now. So then I was able to pull it conventional as well, and yeah, I was super proud of those lifts. It was I wrote an article for the StrongFirst website for it, and it was about a year of working at it, and yeah, it was great. I was super excited with that, and it's just a feather in your cap.
dude, that's badass. That's badass, man. Dude, that's great.
Thanks.
I, eating steaks, lifting weights, enjoying life.
Yeah,
Like you're my people, man. You're my people.
yeah, you too, brother. I appreciate it.
Oh, where, as you wrap up here, where can people connect with you, or find information about Blind Dog Gym?
Yeah, so I've got a couple pages. So my personal page, where I don't post a lot on there, but I post like maybe a workout a week, and then whatever book I happen to be reading that week. That is at mvalenti100. You can find the gym information at Blind Dog Strong. And then we also have at Hardstyle Great Lakes, where it's all strong for stuff anywhere around the Great Lakes. I try to put information on there for people. So if anybody out there has workshops anywhere around the Great Lakes, they want advertised, or hell, I don't care, anywhere you're having your workshop, just send me the information. I'll put it up there. Um, I try to get out as much information about StrongFirst on that page as possible. If there's StrongFirst instructors out there in Northern Ohio that are looking for a place to train, Blind Dog is perfectly set up for StrongFirst, and I'm looking for StrongFirst certified instructors only. So if anybody's out there around Northern Ohio and they need a place to work with clients, give me a holler, and we'll see what you can do.
Amazing. I'll put all that in the show notes. And you're going to the Dome? Gonna be there?
I'm so psyched, and it's so far away.
Almost 3 months now. Almost.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got a workshop February 23rd here in Ohio. So we're going to do Barbell 101 here in Ohio. I'm a team leader now, so I get to actually run my own workshop. So I think it's going to be me and Serenity Myers from down in Akron, who is a fantastic coach, another awesome human being. But we're going to do Barbell 101. I'm going to fill it full of all sorts of goodies. So if anybody's out there interested in that, get a hold of me. And then we got the Dome. I'm so psyched for the Dome, and I'm working with Fabio again, and I'm going to learn a lot. And yeah, it's going to be awesome.
It's gonna be great. I got a Primal Foundations t-shirt just waiting for you. Just
Oh,
gotta give me the size. I got you.
I'll trade you a Blind Dog one for it.
Uh, Perfect. Sounds good.
What are you coaching?
I'm assisting. I don't know what I'm assisting yet. So
Okay.
I registered with John Ingram. I'm going to be either SFL or SFG1. I have to recert my SFL, so I'm hoping they put me in there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be dope. But
Yeah.
Mark, you're the man. I can't wait to see you in April. But thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'll do it anytime you want. I had a lot of fun.
You got it. Thanks everybody for listening to another episode of the Primal Foundations podcast.